This regular dude wakes up, but damn, he looks like he's in mad pain with tears streaming down his face. He glances around and sees people straight up clowning and laughing at him. Then, out of nowhere, this prince decides to give him a parting gift before offering himself. He tells the regular dude to bust out some magic, and the dude desperately tries to attack the prince. He throws his arms up, trying to shoot a massive flame at the prince, but all he can manage is a weak-ass flame that barely even scratches the prince. Everyone starts roasting his pathetic magic skills, and the prince can't believe there's a regular dude so damn weak. He's disappointed that's all the regular dude could muster. He remembers the words of this wise dude named William Bordeaux, who said that for a mage, the most important things are their lineage, talent, and smarts. But he tells the regular dude not to get it twisted because hard work is a major factor too, and no amount of that can make up for a lack of talent. As he preps his attack, he straight up tells the regular dude that magic isn't going to smile on someone as insignificant as him. He unleashes his fiery magic on the regular dude, who gets engulfed in flames right away. The dude screams in agony as he turns into ash, but then he starts grinning like crazy because he's in awe of the prince's sick magic. He realizes the power behind the magic a noble wields, and he can't help but admire its beauty from his magical perspective. He wishes he learned more about magic and mastered it when he was still alive. With his dying breath, he prays for another shot at experiencing the thrill of such magic. Suddenly, he wakes up and peeps a bunch of maids holding toys all around him. He's like, who the hell are these peeps, and where am I? He thinks they're giant enemies and decides to defend himself. He tries to cast a fire spell, but realizes his hands are freaking tiny. By accident, he casts a fire spell that straight up blasts through the castle roof like fireworks, announcing his birth. A town crier runs through the kingdom, spreading the news about the birth of the 7th prince of the Saloon Kingdom, posting up posters and all that. Everyone in the village is stoked to witness such an epic day. Meanwhile, the maids at the castle are losing their minds over the chaos caused by the newborn baby. But the baby just grins like a little troublemaker, proud of wrecking the castle with his baby powers. Fast forward a few years, and life in the kingdom goes on as usual while some maids search all over the castle for the prince. They scour one part but can't find him, so they decide to move their search to another area. As soon as they leave, the prince sneaks out of his hiding spot, ready to dip from the castle. But then, two dudes pop up and start calling his name. Prince Lloyd freezes and signals them to be quiet so the maids don't hear them. He straight up tells the dude to act like he never saw him, and the dude agrees to keep his trap shut. He asks Lloyd if he wants to roll with them on a hunt, but Lloyd just bounces, leaving the dude talking to himself. Once the dude realizes Lloyd is trying to sneak away, he calls out to him, but Lloyd isn't saying a word. The dude is bummed that the prince has dipped again, but his homie tells him that Lloyd is the 7th prince, which means he isn't in the running for the crown. He can't understand why the dude is going through all this trouble to win his favor. The dude reminds his homie that the prince could speak right after being born, was reading spell books instead of kids' picture books, and even refused breast milk like a true gentleman. He thinks the prince is the reincarnation of the legendary sage William Bordeaux. His homie tells him it's straight up ridiculous to think the prince is a reincarnation of the sage. The prince rushes down the castle stairs and realizes the dude was right about him being a reincarnation. He remembers he was just a regular dude in his past life, but he has no clue because his memories are still intact. While the maids search for him in the castle, he wonders why he got reborn as some privileged 7th son in a royal family. Even though he was born into royalty, he isn't planning on chasing their glory ambitions. He's sticking to his ambitions from his past life and wants to see how much epic magic he can uncover in the palace. He steps into the royal library and gets hyped to see all those magical books stacked on the shelves. He's blown away by the collection because it beats the Magic Academy back in his old life. He grabs a book off the shelf and cracks it open, but bam, someone appears right behind him. Silpha snatches the book from his hands, pissed that he tried to escape from the maids. They start clashing swords, and Lloyd manages to hold his own against her for a bit, but eventually she pushes him back. He tells her he hasn't got a shot at the throne since he's the 7th, so he doesn't need any sword lessons. Silpha tells him there's more to life than just being next in line for the throne. She reminds him that as part of the royal family, he needs to know how to handle a sword. Teaching him sword skills has been her gig for the past 3 years, ever since she was put in charge of his education. Lloyd realizes Silpha won't let up on his training unless he steps up his game. They decide to get back to their sword practice, and Silpha notices that Lloyd is getting stronger every damn day. Lloyd isn't tripping about her compliment because he knows she's holding back. He's low-key using control-type magic to track Silpha's moves, so she's battling a clone of herself. He's straight up cheating so he can ditch the practice and get back to his books. They keep going at it, but Silpha still comes out on top. Lloyd realizes that even though he can copy her moves, she still outmatches him in arm strength, stamina, and height. Copying her techniques isn't enough. He's at a disadvantage and bound to lose. He decides to experiment with cheating to level the playing field. He uses magic to extend his sword length and boost his physical strength. He even uses levitation to make up for the height difference. He goes back at it with Silpha, and this time he can keep up. He's confident his magic enhancements will lead him to victory. They keep sparring, but Lloyd decides to play his trump card and pull off an unexpected move. He unleashes his trace magic, mimicking Silpha's every move, and tries to strike her from behind. Silpha looks hella surprised, and Lloyd is stoked because he thinks he's got it in the bag. But Silpha blocks his attack. She wonders if he's cheating, catching him off guard, and she knocks his sword out of his hands. She's surprised he thought she wouldn't catch on to his cheating game. She tells him he's mad skilled for trying to compensate for his weaknesses. She's shocked he can handle 2 spells at once, something most court magicians can't even pull off. She advises him not to rush his growth, but to take it at his own pace. Lloyd realizes she didn't notice his physical enhancements and control spells because he was juggling 4 spells at once. He decides to keep that info to himself so she doesn't get suspicious. Silpha takes him to the maid's bath, but Lloyd protests, saying he can handle his bathing. Silpha isn't letting him out of her sight because she knows he'll end up buried under a pile of books. Lloyd's bummed he can't read his book, but the other maids warn him that the library demon will devour him if he keeps being stubborn. Lloyd is surprised there's a library with a forbidden demon. The maids start telling the story of the demon named Grim, who wrecked the kingdom back in the day. It took a bunch of sages to seal the demon away in a book. Silpha thinks it's all just a fairy tale because she can't believe there's a book in the castle's underground library where the monster is trapped. Silpha thinks Lloyd won't be scared by that kind of story, but she's surprised to see him shaking. The maids offer to bunk with him for the night, but Silpha shuts them down, saying she's the only one who can handle that. An argument breaks out between the maids, and Lloyd takes advantage of the chaos to slip away. The idea of a forbidden underground library in the castle gets Lloyd all hyped up. Lloyd heads underground and uses a concealment spell to sneak past the guards at the entrance. The guards argue about whether the library tale is legit, while Lloyd slips right by them. They're convinced no one can get past them and break the seal put in place by the kingdom's top 10 mages. Lloyd reaches the barrier and breaks the seal with ease. He steps into the library, amazed that he had no clue this dope section existed underground. He explores the library, checks out the books, and reminds himself to put the barrier back up when he leaves. He sits down with a book when suddenly another book starts floating, catching Lloyd off guard. A demon emerges from the book and tells Lloyd he's impressed he broke the seal. Lloyd wonders who the demon is, and the demon introduces himself as Grim, the demon from the Forbidden Book. Lloyd introduces himself to Grim, and Grim tries to persuade Lloyd to set him free. He tells Lloyd his seal is already weakened, and he'll eventually be free. He offers Lloyd all the gold he wants if he frees him, but Lloyd isn't impressed by the demon's conjuring skills. He's disappointed that Grim just turned dust into gold, so he easily crushes the gold back into dust, surprising Grim. Lloyd tells him he plans to restore the seal because he isn't about to let some demon mess up his plans of mastering the kingdom's magic. Grim tries to convince him that he has no beef with the citizens because the sages who sealed him are long gone, but Lloyd isn't buying it. Grim gets desperate and offers to teach Lloyd some ancient magic that's been lost over time. This catches Lloyd's interest, and Grim says he'll teach him because he sees Lloyd's got a mad talent for magic. Lloyd remembers the prince's words, saying magic will never favor him because he's just a commoner. Now, he's convinced he's got a body made for magic, way more privileged than any commoner. He decides to release the demon's seal, and Grim can't believe his luck. Lloyd can't wait to start learning from the demon, and Grim decides to keep his word. He hits Lloyd with an ancient flame magic right away, thinking he's got him down and can make his escape. He's shaken to see Lloyd chilling without a scratch because Lloyd got his barrier game on point. Lloyd is delighted by the demon's spell and asks him to show off some more. The demon gets mad and throws more ancient magic spells at Lloyd, but none of them can break through Lloyd's barrier. The demon is straight up baffled and wonders what the hell Lloyd's barrier is made of. Lloyd is so hyped about the magic that he decides to give it a try himself. He takes a piece of his barrier and holds it on his finger to study its composition. He's eagerly waiting for Grim to bring the heat when suddenly Grim sprouts a second mouth and starts chanting. Lloyd notices the double incantation and realizes Grim's about to unleash a devastating ancient spell. Lloyd analyzes the spell from within his barrier, but Grim can't believe Lloyd is still kicking after taking his strongest attack. Grim decides to make a run for it, but he's stopped by another barrier. Lloyd lets him know he put up the barrier, but Grim's hurt because he thought Lloyd was trying to dip. Lloyd tells Grim he just put up the barriers as a precautionary measure. Grim is done with Lloyd's shenanigans and decides to finish him off, but Lloyd tells him he already knows his spell. Lloyd decides to test Grim's defensive magic and casts a massive spell. Grim can't believe Lloyd has such a huge mana tank. He tries to dodge the fire spell, but he gets roasted to a crisp. Lloyd wonders why Grim couldn't dodge his attack, and Grim can't believe Lloyd's ego is through the roof. Lloyd takes care of the library's damage, and Grim is dumbfounded because Lloyd restores the room flawlessly. He starts treating Lloyd with respect because he's blown away by his skills. Lloyd knows you can't take out demons with just magic, so he decides to push Grim's limits. But Grim backs away with fear. He ends up surrendering and offers to be Lloyd's servant. He asks to be Lloyd's familiar, and Lloyd agrees instantly, but Grim feels like Lloyd sees him as some lab experiment. Lloyd tells him he stands out too much and asks him to transform into something smaller. Grim transforms into a cute little demon to butter Lloyd up and catch him off guard. Lloyd asks him to hop into his coat, and Grim can't believe Lloyd is dumb enough to let him get close. Grim plans to attach himself to Lloyd and take over his body, but when he touches Lloyd, he's shocked by how dense Lloyd's mana is. He realizes he can't control him and decides to be obedient because he knows he isn't standing a chance. Lloyd uses the opportunity to read all the books in the Forbidden Library. We got this dude, he's all noble and stuff, getting ready for his day and strutting through his big old mansion. In the library, Grim warns Lloyd that someone is approaching. Lloyd tells him to hide, and we learn that this noble is Prince Albert. This guy's got mad skills. He shows off his magic and blows everyone's minds by nailing the target dead on. People think he's going to be the next king with all that talent. Albert's got access to fancy places like this one, and sometimes he invites Lloyd to tag along. Lloyd can't use his magic much in the castle, so he's stoked when he gets an invite to the range. Now it's Lloyd's turn to show off, but he isn't interested in no throne. He isn't got to impress anybody. Plus, if he unleashed his true power, he'd get caught up in all the power struggles between the princes. Lloyd isn't feeling that. All he wants to do is research magic and live in peace. Grim wonders what he will do about the demonstration, so Lloyd explains that he will simply make his fireball curve so that they only graze the targets. Lloyd makes it sound easy, but Grim knows that's some next level skill right there. Lloyd starts blasting away, barely grazing each target. The crowd's all disappointed, but Grim's like they should have known how ridiculously hard it is to control magic like that. Lloyd doesn't even pay them any mind, though he's too busy thinking about how he can improve his technique. Albert seems like he knows something, but he keeps his mouth shut and tells Lloyd to hang out while he takes a break. Lloyd is on cloud 9. He's got so many things he wants to try out. First up, he wants to give that dual incantation a shot, just like Grim did. But Grim's all freaking out, saying it's impossible. Only demons with extra mouths can do that stuff. Lloyd thinks he's got a solution, though it works, but Grim's all shocked, saying no sane person would ever try to merge with a demon. Lloyd did just that. He tells Grim to go ahead and cast an infernal fireball. Grim declares that this will be a piece of cake for a demon of his caliber, but he freaks out when things don't go the way he planned. Grim is terrified and wonders what Lloyd did. Lloyd explains that it was just a spell stack. I compress incantations by reciting a bunch of them at once. Lloyd's able to cast spells way faster that way. And get this, he takes it to the extreme, casually dropping that he recited like 100 spells in each line of the incantation. Grimm's straight up stunned, can't believe how chill Lloyd's acting. He points out that even as a powerful demon, he can only stack 2 or 3 lines at a time. Lloyd moves on to the next test and realizes he can talk out of both mouths now. Grimm's panicking, thinking Lloyd's going to pull off 2 advanced spells at once, but Lloyd shuts him up. Suddenly, this immense power surges through Lloyd as he unleashes the Infernal Fireball and Water Bolt spell. Grimm's panic levels hit an all-time high because he realizes Lloyd's mixing 2 crazy advanced spells. The mana's off the charts, and Lloyd's pumped to see what this dual incantation can do. He figures he can't release all that power on the ground, so he just shoots it up into the sky. Even then, the display of power is so intense, you can see it from miles away in the castle. Some of the servants aren't too happy that Albert's hanging with Lloyd because they think he's just a kid who sucks at magic. But Albert shuts them down. He reveals that Lloyd intentionally grazed all the targets perfectly. It was all part of the plan. Albert calls Lloyd a freaking genius. Albert predicts Lloyd could become the Grand Sage, the ultimate wizard, and he hopes they can be allies. The servants are sure that he will be able to convince him, but Albert points out that he just wants to get along with his little brother. Albert predicts that Lloyd probably already knocked down all the targets, but the servants once again doubt Lloyd's ability. They think there's no way this kid could take them down so damn fast. And then one of the servants is like, "Why is it so dark outside?" We find out why when Grimm's shaking in fear after seeing Lloyd blow a freaking hole through the atmosphere. Lloyd starts panicking because he doesn't want anybody to find out, but luckily things go back to normal. That was some insane stuff. Grimm's straight up terrified and starts wondering who the hell Lloyd is. The next morning, Grimm gets fed up with doing all these ma duties for Lloyd. But then he calms down and reminds himself that he has to keep Lloyd's body clean and healthy because he's going to take it over later. Yeah, it's some weird possession stuff. The tear in the sky makes it to the newspaper, but nobody knows what the hell caused it. Lloyd's probably got some serious ADHD because he's already moving on. Now he's all hyped about this new story about high-ranking adventurers. They cleared out some crazy hard dungeon and came back with mad treasures and magic items. Lloyd thinks that sounds hella fun, so he decides to go to a dungeon himself. Grimm's like, "Lloyd, if they find out you're gone, it's going to cause a freaking panic." But Lloyd's got a solution up his sleeve. Grimm's all confused when Lloyd pulls out an acorn. But then his confusion turns into amazement when Lloyd uses that acorn to make a wooden copy of himself. And get this, it's not just a basic replica. Lloyd made it all complex and gave it nerves and stuff. So, it not only looks like him, but can also do simple movements on its own. This still isn't enough, as Lloyd points out that he would have done this sooner if it was sure to work. Turns out the real problem is Selpha. Whoever that is, we see how she's obsessed with Lloyd, noticing every little change in him. This silly wooden dummy he made won't fool her, but Lloyd's got another solution. He heads outside, and we see he left Grimm in charge of the replica while still being able to talk to him through his hand. The maids think the replica's adorable, but Grimm's thinking about how insane Lloyd is. Lloyd transferred Grimm's soul into the replica and somehow incorporated his soulless body into his hand. Lloyd leaves the rest to Grimm, and Grimm's all impressed by how real the replica feels. Soon enough, Grimm realizes that Lloyd isn't there to stop him, and he starts getting some wicked ideas in his head. Just then, Lloyd tells him how much he enjoys having Grimm as his familiar, and that brings tears to Grimm's eyes. Lloyd wonders if something is wrong, but Grimm just tells him to hurry up and finish with the dungeon. Lloyd realizes that he doesn't know where to find a dungeon, and Grimm notices that it looks like someone is being attacked nearby. It isn't the case. The seemingly helpless chick turns the tables on her pursuers and straight up wrecks them. She shows off her badass fighting skills, and Grimm points out that she must be a martial artist Lloyd has read about. She's using some breathing technique that lets her tap into this energy called ki and gives her insane strength. Somehow, she can sense their presence, but Lloyd's cool with it because he wants to learn more about her technique. He begins to panic, though, when Grimm points out that she might recognize him as the 7th prince. Lloyd goes all quiet, and the girls think he's an enemy, so they start heading their way. Lucky for Lloyd, he manages to change his appearance just in time and introduces himself as Loberto. Lloyd used some spell that let him transform into someone he'd seen before. He combined his looks with this dude Albert, using some fancy dual incantation to come up with a whole new appearance. The girl introduces herself as Taoe, and Lloyd's all worried that she might be onto him because she isn't turning away. Turns out, Tao is freaking because she thinks Loberto's a total hottie. She spent her whole damn life training for this shit, escaped some dojo and became an adventurer in search of romance, but no luck so far because most dudes prefer them weak-ass priestesses. Her time has finally come, though, so she vows to make Loberto her boyfriend. She looks pretty busy, so Lloyd decides not to ask her to clear a dungeon with him, but she jumps at the chance when they enter a dungeon. Tao is eager to show him her fighting prowess, but our boy Lloyd is too busy obsessing over some glowing rocks. Tao was impressed by how much Lloyd knows about her breathing technique, and she explains that it's all about breathing when it comes to using a ki. You have to breathe right to fill your whole body with ki, and that's what lets you unleash superhuman strength. The problem is, it takes a ton of training just to start feeling the ki in your body. That is why Tao recommends that Loberto spend his time finding the key to her heart, but Lloyd just brushes off her cheesy joke. He surprises Tao when he starts using the breathing technique himself. He explains that he just copied her, but she warns that if he's not used to it, he will feel like his lungs are burning. But Lloyd, being his crazy self, keeps going with the technique, and he's shocked when he starts feeling that energy inside him. He gets all hyped because he knows he can use this power for sorcery. Tao decides that she will help him learn about keys and instructs him not to stop the breathing technique until they leave the dungeon. Back at home, Grim thinks Lloyd's nuts because he's got this comfy life. But Lloyd doesn't give. All he cares about is learning more about sorcery. Things are going smoothly for Grim, but he gets a shock when Sulfa shows up in the dungeon, blasting keys and taking down the boss. They get rewarded with a chest, but Tao's like, if this dungeon isn't big, the loot isn't going to be good. They check out the chest, and Tao is amazed to see that Loberto's already mastered the breathing technique in such a short time. She knows she hit the freaking jackpot. If she can get Loberto in on some student-teacher action, her guardian won't have a choice but to accept him as her fiancé. Tao was about to pop open the chest, but Lloyd's got to save her because it's got a deadly trap. Some monster dude jumps out, and Lloyd's like, is this the real boss of the dungeon? Tao isn't sweating this lick like it's a big deal, so she tells Loberto to bounce from the dungeon while she handles it. But the situation is way gnarlier than she lets on, so she apologizes to her boy and kicks him out of there. She admits she might have messed him up a bit, but it's better than him losing his life to the lick. Tao is dodging the lick's attacks, but she knows even a ranked adventurers don't get a chance against the lick. She isn't dumb enough to think she can whoop it, so she decides to buy Loberto some time to skedaddle elsewhere. Lloyd's still flying high from being launched by two, but he's bummed because he wants to learn more. Lloyd stops and wonders if he should head back. He's torn because he doesn't know why she kicked him out of the dungeon, so he asks Grim for advice. Grim isn't saying anything at first, but when he does, he just tells Lloyd to come home and save him. Back at the fight, things aren't looking too great for Tao because she realizes her life's about to be over. She tries to back off, but she's shocked when the lick starts talking. He explains how he chows down on adventurers' souls to gain their smarts and skills. He figures it isn't worth devouring Tao because her key technique is just weak-ass magic. But he's interested in Lloyd because of how quickly he reacted to the trap. Tao points out that the lick and Loberto are nothing alike. Most people brush off key techniques as a waste of time, but Loberto was impressed by it. The lick couldn't care less, so Tao throws up a barrier to protect the lich, but she keeps pounding on it while letting him know she's been training her key techniques since she was a little kid. To show her rage, she mentions how she spent all her time training and never had a chance to get herself a man. Her barrage of attacks ends with one final devastating blow, and she declares that messing with her is a big mistake. But Tao has drained all her ki, so she can't even move a damn inch no more. And that's when things get real ugly because the lick reveals he's still kicking. Tao went all out with her ki blast to wreck the barrier, but the lick lets her know it was a beautiful effort. Her full power isn't even worth a flick of his magic finger. The lick rubs salt in the wound, saying she wasted her life with all that training. He casts a spell to crush her with a magic shard, but the lick gets a shock when Lloyd swoops in to save her. Lloyd explains he's about to get taken over, but he hasn't got much time, so he has to end the fight quickly. Tao isn't got a damn clue what's going on when Loberto shows up all serious and shit. Lloyd flies in behind the Lick and is straight up shocked to see him bust out the breathing technique. Even the Lick is like, what the hell? Because Lloyd pulls off an air class spell called Full Sprint without even chanting the incantation. The Lick tries to attack him, but he's dumbfounded by how strong Lloyd's barrier is. Lloyd isn't even paying attention to the monster. He's all about perfecting that combo of ki and mana. He isn't quite there yet, but he remembers Tao's words to keep his focus. Lloyd takes in even more air, concentrating hard, and he amps up that full sprint spell. The Lick thinks Lloyd's trying to escape, so he goes in for the attack. But Lloyd's just taking in more air. He gets rid of his barrier because it's in the way, and the dumbass Lick thinks he shattered it. Thinks he's got the upper hand, so he goes in for the final blow. But Lloyd dodges that shit like a boss. Tao's jaws drop as she sees that Lick's attack didn't break Lloyd's barrier. Loberto did that shit himself to draw in even more air for a stronger ki technique. Lloyd keeps dodging attacks while molding his ki and mana together. Everyone's jaws hit the floor when he unleashes this new power, but Lloyd isn't satisfied. He tweaks it a bit, laughs like a maniac, and launches a barrage of attacks on the Lick. The dude's a psycho, demanding that the Lick doesn't give up because he's having a blast, and there's still so much cool he wants to try out. The Lick's mind is blown. He thought Lloyd was just some mage, but this kid isn't using any incantations, and his basic-ass ki techniques are matching the Lick's sorcery. The Lick takes some hits and realizes Lloyd's techniques are overpowering him. Lloyd sharpens his attack even more, and the Lick tries to defend with a barrier, but it's useless. Lloyd's attack slices right through it and slices the Lick's ass too. So, Tao watches in utter amazement as Lloyd proclaims that he figured it out. After all that, Tao was bummed because they just got some old dagger for all their hard work. But Lloyd can tell that shit's soaked in mana. She still isn't impressed, so she hands it over to Lloyd. Just then, the ground starts crumbling beneath them, and Tao explains that dungeons fall apart once the boss is defeated and the treasure is taken. Lloyd's mind is blown again, thinking it's like some survival tactic for lizards losing their tail to survive. Lloyd figures out that dungeons chill underground until someone drops a magic item. Then the dungeon absorbs that shit and starts growing around it, collecting gear from all the losers who couldn't clear it, and when the dungeon senses it's about to get cleared, it offers up one of the items it gathered to survive. That shit's wild, but they aren't got much time left. Lloyd pulls the chest out of the ground like a boss, and they bounce right before the whole dungeon collapses. Lloyd stares at the closed-up dungeon, amazed as it gathers its strength underground, ready to become a dungeon again. Tao gives props to Loberto for being an amazing mage, but she wonders why he busted out a ki technique at the end of the battle. She thinks it was because the Lick was talking to her. But Lloyd spills the truth and says he did it just for fun. Right then, Lloyd's got to dip because he remembers he's got to haul ass home. Tao is thinking about how advanced that ki technique Lloyd used is, so advanced that she can't even touch it. So she declares that she will work out intensively to become a fascinating girl for the next time they meet. Lloyd says that he will train hard too as he leaves and hopes to become the kind of girl who can catch his attention. Then, she realizes she doesn't even know how to get in touch with him, but it's too late. Lloyd rolls up at home and flips out when he sees Grim all messed up. Selpha took the fake Lloyd for training, but she was shocked at how weak his ass got. So she promised to make him strong again. Now Grim's sobbing because he couldn't hang in there during the training. He's bummed that Lloyd was gone for so long just for some crappy sword. But Lloyd schools him and says it's a damn treasure. He soaks it in hot water and scrapes it to reveal that it's been treated with mana essence. Mana essence is hard to come by, and enchantment spells are difficult to do. They use mana essence to write magic formulas on weapons to make them stronger. But if that shit fails, both the essence and the weapon go to waste. Because mana essence is rare as hell, Lloyd decides to analyze the shit he scraped off the knife so they can make their own. He uses a purification spell to see what's in it, and it turns out to be oil silver, and something called hematite. That hematite is made from grinding a monster's core, so it's pretty rare. But they can get some from the dungeon chest. All they need now is oil and silver. Lloyd's pops gives him some silver coins, wondering what his son's going to buy with them. Lloyd and Grim head to their hideout and melt that silver down. After that, Lloyd makes a bet with Selpha. If he can land a hit on her, she has to hook him up with some oil. Lloyd pulls off some badass magic moves and gets ready to win that bet, but he loses track of where she's at. Selpha straight up shows her skills and takes the win in the fight. And get this, she's all cool about it and even hooks the dude up with the oil because she's just glad he isn't as weak as before. But Grimm's spying on them and he's pissed because she basically called him weak. He can't believe she managed to beat him, even without magic. So now he's wondering what kind of maid she really is. Then Selpha starts gushing about how impressive this 10-year-old Lloyd is. Kid's a total bad with both the sword and magic. So she predicts that he could become a knight commander when he grows up. Lloyd just thanks her for the oil, and she's curious what he's planning to cook with it. Lloyd and Grimm head back to their hideout to add the oil to their mix, making some bad mana essence. Next, Lloyd asks Albert for some weapons to test his enhancement magic. Albert finds it hella cute how much Lloyd loves magic. So he asks his crew which one of them wants their weapon boosted by his adorable little. They all jump at the chance, but let's be real. It's because Albert practically ordered them to deep down. They aren't too thrilled because enchantment is mad tricky and rarely goes smoothly. Plus Lloyd's just a 10-year-old, so they're thinking he'll probably end up breaking all their weapons. Grimm hears them doubting Lloyd and he's all fired up. He steps in and declares they're going to enchant the crap out of those weapons and make them unstoppable. Lloyd goes all mad scientist mode and shocks Grimm by slapping on 3 layers of this enchantment called Boost Power. This kid's a straight up maniac, filling every nook and cranny with spell formulas. The sword snaps like a twig because the steel couldn't handle all those spells. Lloyd realizes that enchanting is a tough job, but Grimm's there hyping him up, telling him to keep at it. After a bunch of failures, Lloyd finally starts getting the hang of it. He heads back to Albert with 50 out of the 120 swords he got. He apologizes for breaking 70 of them, but deep down, he's stoked because he enchanted 80 of them. The only problem was he got greedy and added too many spells to a few swords, and well, they ended up toast. Albert's in straight up disbelief because even top-notch enchanters only have like a 10% success rate. It's so insane that the others don't even think Lloyd enchanted the weapons at all. They figure he just gave up after ruining 70 swords and returned the rest untouched. So the crew decides to lie and say the swords feel sharper. But one dude gets a shock when his sword slices his sheath in half. They don't know what to make of it, but the angry little Grimm feels vindicated. Albert's amazed by one of the sickest swords, and Lloyd explains he wanted to see them in action. Perfect timing because Albert drops the bombshell they're going on a monster hunt. Right after that, we see Lloyd rolling with Albert. Lloyd's got Grimm by his side, no doubt. They reach the woods where they are going to hunt down the monster. But the monster isn't in the woods, it's chilling by the lake nearby. Lloyd's pumped as hell because he doesn't get to leave the castle often, and he's stoked to see his magic swords in action. Albert points out how Selpha always sticks with Lloyd, and she thanks him for letting her come along. Albert jokes that Selpha might have strong feelings for Lloyd, but she shuts him up quickly. Just then, they get surrounded by a bunch of kobold, but those soldiers see it as a warm-up for the real deal. Lloyd pretends to be scared, but Grimm knows he sensed the danger way before. Lloyd's has this technique called spectral detection, where he can feel his surroundings all the time by breathing a certain way. Grimm watches his master and knows he can't surprise Lloyd because he's always on the lookout. Grimm says Lloyd gets scarier every day. The fight starts, and everyone's tripping balls over how damn sharp those swords are. They aren't just slicing through monsters, they're cutting through steel like it's butter. Soldiers are freaking out like kids with a knife for the first time. So, Lloyd knows his enchantments worked like a charm. Albert agrees and tells everyone that his little bro is a damn enchanting prodigy. Selpha agrees too, standing over a pile of dead monsters. But Lloyd points out he didn't even enchant her sword. Right then, one of them kobold tries to attack Lloyd, but out of nowhere, Tawa shows up and takes it out. Lloyd almost slips up and calls out to her like he's still Loberto, but he catches himself just in time. Tawa notices Lloyd using some key breathing techniques, but she came because she thought she sensed Loberto's slow ass, and she sees a lot of resemblance between Loberto and Lloyd on a closer look. Right then, Selpha kills another monster. She gives props to Tao, but warns her not to get too close to Prince Lloyd. Tawa says she sensed another monster coming and that the key techniques. The tension starts rising between these two, so Albert steps in and calms them down, inviting Tao to join them that night. Tao is shocked to find out Albert's a prince. Albert looks somewhat like Loberto, but not as much as Lloyd, who she's looking for right now. Lloyd hides nearby and realizes that Tao's got mad skill with ki, and that's how she found him. Lloyd decides to dip into his tent, But for some reason, Selpha's in there changing. Lloyd says that he doesn't need her to protect him. But Selpha disagrees as she doesn't like how the new girl is chasing after him. Then Tawa comes barging in, and Selpha straight up calls her an idiot, and Tawa fires back calling her a perverted maid. These two start going at it, so Lloyd sees his chance to dip out. Albert calls Lloyd a lady killer and points out that Selpha has changed a lot since she started looking after Lloyd. She sees Lloyd growing up, but Albert warns him that dealing with women can get complicated. Just then, the girls notice the soldiers watching them a little too closely. They knock them all out, and Lloyd gets the message loud and clear from Albert. Tao explains she got hired to clean up some old shrine, so Selpha tells her to hurry up. They almost start arguing again, but Albert interrupts and says Tao's ability to sense danger is hella helpful. He would like for her to act as a lookout for them overnight. But she points out that they won't need one as the monster's here now. The monster turns out to be a bear wolf, so Selpha tells Lloyd to stay behind her. The monster starts attacking, and Lloyd points out how bear wolves are incredibly fast for how large they are. Lloyd tries talking to Grim, but the little dude's all distracted because he recognizes the shrine or something. Tao manages to save some soldiers, but this monster is tough as nails. Albert had enough, so he busts out his sword. He says sorry to the wolf, but explains that the villagers suffer because of it. Albert swings his sword while chanting some words, and he unleashes a crazy powerful attack that obliterates the monster. Everyone's mind blown that he took it out in one shot. But Albert points out that his attack is not normally that powerful. It's all thanks to the enchantment Lloyd put on his spellbound sword. Lloyd thinks about how he added a little extra sauce to Albert's sword. But Grim isn't even paying attention. He's mad worried and spills the beans that there's a freaking demon sealed in the shrine nearby. Just then, everyone's shook as the bear wolf somehow keeps moving. More monsters pop up out of nowhere, and a voice starts talking to our crew. Turns out the voice is coming from inside the bear wolf, and it introduces itself as Pazuzu the demon. He's pissed that they messed up one of his minions, and he swears they're going to pay with their lives. Pazuzu sends his minions to attack, and they aren't anything to slice up because they heal up instantly. Tao swoops in and saves Albert, and he figures out that the demon's calling the shots for all those minions. Lloyd wonders if the demon knows Grim, but no, they aren't tight like that. Grim breaks it down. Pazuzu can transform his mana to control those monsters. He makes them think he's their master, but for real, his mana acts like strings pulling their puppet strings. He can even supply mana through those strings, which is why they keep healing up. Grim gets serious and says things are going to get ugly if they don't take Pazuzu down. However, Lloyd doesn't care and just wants Grim to teach him mana transmutation. Selpha wishes Tao would hurry up and do something, but Tao points out that Selpha isn't doing anything. Grim tells Lloyd it isn't the best time to learn something new because they are all fighting for their lives. But Lloyd's so sure they'll be fine and insists that Grim teach him anyway. While watching the fight, Pazuzu starts running his mouth. He admits some of his opponents have skills, but most of them just survive because of their weapons. Then he starts dissing Lloyd, saying he ran away like a scared baby. Selpha isn't having none of that, and Pazuzu tells her it's got to be tough taking care of a useless sack of flesh like Lloyd. That's it. Selpha's had enough, and Tao was scared out of her mind. Selpha steps away from Lloyd, but he doesn't even notice because he is deep in his learning zone. Pazuzu keeps talking smack, but Selpha fires back. She says all his minions reek like garbage, and the only thing worse is his breath. She's decided Pazuzu's messing with Lloyd's fresh air, so she's going to end his life. Selpha casually draws her sword, but Pazuzu explains that they have no chance of leaving her alive. He's supplying those minions with mana, so they're going to keep regenerating endlessly. Demon's got mana for days, so he isn't running out either. Pazuzu thinks he made Selpha cry, but she straight up tells him it's his breath again. Just then, Albert gets worried when the demon attacks her, but she's more than fine because she cuts off all the monster's feet. She suggests Pazuzu leave behind the furball he's controlling and warns he's going to lose even quicker if he doesn't. And everyone notices the minions stop moving and regenerate slower. It's because the demon's focusing on regenerating its bear wolf. They might have a shot at winning when the demon does that. So Albert tells Selpha to keep inflicting damage on him. She gets ready to do it, But Pazuzu thinks they're playing themselves. Meanwhile, Grim wraps up his lesson for Lloyd. He explains how Pazuzu must be a real pro at mana transmutation because it isn't easy, even for a badass demon. Grim tries to show Lloyd how to control mana, starting with adding some color to it. Then you have to shape it and add sense. Grim struggles with it, but he's hella shocked when Lloyd reveals he shaped his mana into a flower and even added a scent. Grim can't believe how perfectly he did it already, so they both take a moment to enjoy the smell. While all that's going on, Pazuzu's in deep trouble because Selpha's straight up whooping his sorry ass. He can't figure out how she isn't leaving any openings, and he's wondering how a babysitter like her can be skilled. Selpha borrows a soldier's sword and admires it because Lloyd enchanted it. Her obsession with Lloyd got Pazuzu interested in him, so now he wants to dissect him. The demon's moving hella fast, but he keeps insulting Lloyd, and that just makes Selpha even angrier. The demon tries to swallow her up and mocks her for falling for his tricks like a dumbass human. But damn, he's stunned when Selpha's still kicking, and she slices that bear wolf's body clean in half. She calls it her family's dual blade art and follows it up with another move called Diving Sparrow. That slices the monster's head right off. Pazuzu tries to say she's just a maid, but nah, that isn't true. Selpha unleashes another move that obliterates the wolf and exposes the demon. Everyone's mind is blown by her power, and Lloyd realizes this is Selpha when she gets dead serious. He admires her and remembers this moment by shaping his mana into an image of her. Selpha's disgusted by the thought of the demon trying to harm Lloyd, so she declares the only thing he's fit to touch is her blade. Selpha tells the demon to chill and make peace, but damn, she's shocked when he starts doing some crazy shit. The rest of the crew takes care of those little minions, but Albert knows it isn't over yet. They have to back up Selpha pronto, and then, out of nowhere, everyone collapses because of that demon's foul miasma. Even Selpha. Pazuzu is pissed. He spent a century building them puppets, and now he blames Selpha for screwing up his plan. He launches an attack, sending her flying into the river. Albert wants to help, but damn, he's running on empty. Pazuzu reveals his miasma of domination, saying anyone who breathes it falls right into his trap. Selpha points out that's why it smells like shit, and Pazuzu gets all butthurt because she keeps dissing him. He tries to attack Selpha again, but Tawa steps in and blocks that shit. Selpha tries to play it cool, telling Tawa to run, but she's hurt badly and collapses. Pazuzu is impressed as hell. Selpha took a heavy dose of his miasma and still defied him like a boss. Even the monsters he controlled fell under his power in less than 30 seconds. But Pazuzu is mad and curious about Tawa. She isn't under his control, and that's tripping him out. Tawa pushes him back, but he manages to capture her. Pazuzu thinks she's some kind of breathing master, resisting his miasma and all. He is correct, but things get bad for Tawa when her breathing is interrupted. Pazuzu points out that she could have just run away, but this weirdo assumes that she stayed because she wanted to become his minion. She pushes the demon away and tells him she's waiting for a total hottie. She's done playing around, so she busts out this crazy powerful attack. She realizes she went a bit overboard and needs to steady her breathing before the demon strikes back. But she's got even bigger problems because one of the puppets comes at her. She's shocked they regenerated so fast, and the demon wonders who this hottie she's talking about is. Pazuzu's done with all the talking and unleashes his ultimate domination miasma. He thinks she's going to be under his control for sure now. But Tawa realizes something big, that hottie she's been talking about. He's closer than she thought. She can still sense him through all of Pazuzu's miasma, and it gives her hope. Pazuzu is still clueless about who she means, so Tawa spills the beans. The hottest dude is coming to wreck him. Sadly, her time's up, and that puppet monster straight up devours her. Now Pazuzu's focus is all on Selpha. He thinks she'd make a sick addition to his crew of minions. He knows it won't be easy to get her under his control, but her strength makes it worth the effort. Pazuzu plans to drown her in miasma, and Lloyd figures that's how he controls the bear wolves. Pazuzu patted himself on the back, bragging about how he killed their folks and replaced them in the pups' minds with his miasma. He's feeling unstoppable, claiming nobody can defy his dominance. But then Lloyd calmly calls him out, saying Pazuzu's a piece of shit. And Pazuzu's mind is blown when he sees Lloyd moving around in his miasma. He demands answers, but Lloyd doesn't even know who he is. Pazuzu's even more shocked by that, but then he realizes Grim is a demon too. He can't wrap his head around why a demon would protect a human, and Pazuzu straight up disses Grimm, calling him cute. He's ashamed of being a demon, or so he says, but Grimm's had enough. He's tempted to see Pazuzu torn to shreds. So Pazuzu sends his scary-ass demons to attack. But Lord is pumped because he wants to test out his new power to transmute shit. The problem is, there are a ton of monsters, so Grimm tells Lloyd he'll have to use up a big chunk of his mana. Lloyd figures out the right amount, and Grimm's amazed because he always struggled with that shit. Lloyd envisions something calm and warm, and Pazuzu's mind is blown again when Lloyd easily breaks his hold over the bear wolves. Grimm calls them all weak, but Lloyd points out that even he might have fallen under his mana's influence. Lloyd has one of the bear wolves spit out Taoe, and he's relieved she's alright. Pazuzu still can't believe how Lloyd turned all his mana into a field of flowers in a split second. He's convinced Lloyd must be some badass sorcerer. Pazuzu tries to control his minions again, but Grimm tells him it's too late. The bear wolves remember their monster pride and how Pazuzu offended their parents. The pissed off bear wolves attack Pazuzu, and Lloyd's blown away by their group attack. It's hella powerful, and no puppet could replicate that shit. Pazuzu shows he's still a strong demon and punishes the bear wolves for coming at him. He isn't regretful about killing their folks, and he insults them, calling them mangy mutts. Pazuzu's pissed now, saying this is what happens when someone defies him. He claims Lloyd's spells don't mean shit because they're useless against a demon. Lloyd remembers Grimm saying the same shit. Magic can't straight up eliminate demons. So Grimm explains it's because it's never happened before. Then Pazuzu starts bragging about showing off his true power now that he isn't feeding his minions with mana. Lloyd isn't even paying attention because he's too damn curious about why magic can eliminate demons. He figures demons must be hella tough to wipe out completely, but that just amps up this crazy kid's excitement to find out what it'd take. Pazuzu is straight up horrified when he sees the dark power coming from Lloyd's body. Grimm points out that's why Pazuzu's mana never affected Lloyd. One day, Lloyd decided to hide his power to avoid drawing unwanted attention, but keeping it locked up all the time was a damn chore. Grimm tells Pazuzu his mana was never going to be enough to even touch Lloyd. Pazuzu and Grimm might both be demons, but their mana isn't shit compared to Lloyd's power. Lloyd's still a psycho, happy as hell that he's got a demon to test out all the spells he's been dying to try. Supposedly, demons can't be wiped out by magic, so Lloyd can go all out without holding back. Pazuzu's shaking in his boots, wondering how the hell Lloyd's got such a massive amount of mana. He thinks he must be trapped in some freaky-ass nightmare, and he's shocked when Lloyd tries to trap him in a barrier. Shit gets scary for Pazuzu when he realizes this isn't even a fight for Lloyd. Lloyd just sees him as a damn lab rat and wants to put his sorry ass in a cage. Pazuzu tries to bounce, and Grimm doesn't blame him because he'd do the same damn thing. Lloyd's having a blast unleashing some of his power, while Pazuzu's hauling ass to avoid getting caught in the barriers Lloyd's throwing up. Pazuzu's barely escaping, so he begs Lloyd to cut it out. Grimm watches in awe, wondering how the hell Lloyd can cast so many spells at once. Lloyd says he can do about 20, but when he teams up with Grimm, they can cast even more. Life gets tough for Pazuzu because now he got to dodge even more barriers, and he's wondering how the hell Lloyd can chant so damn fast. Pazuzu pats himself on the back for dodging so much, but that doesn't last long because Lloyd uses a spatial spell called Dimensional Enclosure. Lloyd points out that he has him now, so Pazuzu tells the psychotic sorcerer to let him go. Lloyd refuses and points out Pazuzu has done terrible things to the bear wolves. Not only did he off their parents, but it's clear Pazuzu did a bunch of chimera experiments on them. Pazuzu begs to be set free, claiming he's the demon meant to rule the whole damn world. But that doesn't work, so he offers to boost Lloyd's status when he takes over. Yeah, that doesn't work either. So, then he begs Lloyd to chill out. He's never been hit with magic from someone as powerful as Lloyd, so he's scared as hell he might die. Lloyd tuned out this dude a while back because he's just spouting some crazy shit. Pazuzu keeps begging for his life, but it's too damn late because the magic's already going down. Lloyd figures he's cranking out 240 spells a minute right now, and damn, he's amazed by how dope it looks, so he decides to keep it up for another solid 30 minutes. But not even 5 minutes later, Lloyd's worried the demon might already be toast. Grimm explains that sorcery messes up demons like how shitty sounds and bright lights mess up us humans. But the sheer amount of magic Lloyd unleashed on Pazuzu fucked him up big time. Pazuzu's falling apart, thinking about how he spent a whole century raising them monsters. He was supposed to rule the world, but it all got shut down by some kid who wanted to experiment on him. Lloyd's already over it, which just adds insult to Pazuzu's injury. Then, out of nowhere, Lloyd's shocked to see everyone's already waking up. He can't let them find out about his insane power, so he bolts to come up with an excuse. Grim tells Pazuzu that he's figured out people don't want to follow leaders who bitch about how hard shit is. They want to kick it with someone who's having a good time. Lloyd's always doing what he wants when he wants, so that's probably why folks flock to him. Grim remembers to keep up his tough guy act and explains he isn't like the ones flocking to Lloyd. He's just building up his strength so he can get revenge on Lloyd someday. In this case, Pazuzu decides to trust his world domination dreams to Grim. Grim's down and happy to see Pazuzu's manas helping him recover a bit. Lloyd comes up with an excuse, telling everyone some dude named Loberto showed up, defeated the demon, and saved them all. Tao overhears and wonders where Loberto is. The whole town celebrates the return of the badass Prince Albert. They think Lloyd's a cute kid, but he isn't shit compared to the great Albert, and that pisses off Selpha. The king is impressed with Albert and wonders where the two adventurers who helped them are. Albert explains Loberto was never actually seen, but we get a glimpse of what happened to Tao. She got suspicious when she realized she was wearing Lloyd's poncho, so Lloyd just tricked her into leaving by saying Loberto was nearby. The king's Hela is interested in this Loberto person, but Albert shocks everyone by saying Lloyd did the most in the hunt. They only survived because of Lloyd's enchanted weapons, so Albert thinks Lloyd should be part of the royal succession. Everyone in the room is straight up dumbfounded because Albert thinks Lloyd would be perfect for the damn throne. The king points out that this would just create another rival for Albert, but Albert thinks that the throne should be given to whoever is most worthy, even if it's not him. He questions any decision that it exclude Lloyd just because he's young, but Albert makes it clear he isn't going to let himself be outshined either. The king's pumped about this crazy turn of events and asks Lloyd if he's down for the struggle. He wants to know if Lloyd's going to stand with his brothers in the quest for the throne. Everyone's mind blown by this epic moment, but Lloyd's just chills and declines calmly. Outside, this little dweeb's running around like a damn rookie and explains that one of the bear wolves followed them home. Lloyd thinks it's cute as hell and fluffy, so Grim gets jealous that he isn't getting the same reaction. Grim puffs himself up and casually jumps into the convo. Selpha shows up to see how much the bear wolf digs Lloyd, and Lloyd hides Grim in its fur. Lloyd's named it Shiro and wants to teach it all kinds of shit. Selpha explains that complex commands are usually for monster tamers, so Lloyd thinks about using mana to control monsters as they do. Grim's amazed by Lloyd, turning down the throne offer like it's no big deal. Lloyd's always just obsessed with magic. He's a true sorcery maniac. The king's watching nearby and thinks Lloyd turned it down because he's modest as hell. But Albert doesn't think that's the reason, because he believes kingship's just too small a role for Lloyd. The king agrees and can't wait to see what Lloyd's future holds. Later on, we find out that Lloyd taught his wolf some basic commands. Shiro picked them up quickly, but the more complicated commands gave them trouble. Lloyd tried writing some command spells into his mana, but that just messed up the poor animal. So, they decide to hit up a monster expert and head over to Princess Elise's garden tower. Grim is straight up amazed by all the monsters there, and Lloyd explains that Elise is his sister, the 6th princess of Salem. She's a hardcore animal lover, not just cats and dogs, but all animals, yeah, even monsters. Just then, out of nowhere, Elise pops up and starts showering Lloyd with affection. But it's too much for him, and he straight up passes out. Elise gets chewed out by her maid named Ares, but she explains that she can't help herself. Lloyd is impressed when Elise can tell that Chero is a bear wolf, but she seems kind of nuts, and Selpha starts doubting if she can help them. Lloyd wants to give her a shot, though, so he asks to see one of her monsters, and he's shocked when she reveals she already called one an upper-class Fenrir named Laru. Grim's mind is blown because that's a seriously high-level bear wolf. Lloyd can't wrap his head around how this monster slipped past his detection. But what's even crazier is that he has no idea when Elise gave the command. The Fenrir knew to creep up behind them and even snatched Selpha's headband. Elise gave it some complicated orders, and she did it without showing a damn thing. This gets Lloyd pumped, so he begs Elise to teach him how to talk to Shiro. Elise says it isn't going to be easy, but Lloyd likes it better when things aren't simple. She agrees to teach him, but she drops a bombshell when she says that the key to talking to animals is love. She claims that love helps him understand any monster, and to prove her point, all the animals in her tower come and give her hugs. Aries thinks it's a waste of time learning from Elise because she's just a natural, but Elise says anyone can learn. She gives another demonstration, but this time the animals go a bit wild with everyone. Selpha's shocked to see that Lloyd seems interested in love, and she daydreams about him asking her to teach him more. But in reality, Lloyd realizes that he's been trying to give orders to Shiro, while his sister isn't giving any commands to her animals. Instead, she's just sharing her will when she talks to them. Lloyd notices that her mana isn't coming from her hands, but it's flowing straight from her head to the animals. That means she can connect with them subconsciously through mana, showing them exactly what she wants. Lloyd figures out that instead of giving orders, he's going to try sharing a mental image of his will. Lloyd straight up pulls it off, and everyone's mind is blown when Shiro does the trick Lloyd was trying to teach him. Lloyd celebrates with Shiro, and Aries determines that he must be gifted. The technique he's using is exactly how monster tamers share their will. Selpha's impressed too, but she's a bit let down because it didn't go down the way she imagined. Elise isn't happy about it and says it's supposed to be about love, not all this complicated will sharing stuff. Lloyd breaks it down even more, and it just makes everyone fall head over heels for him. Lloyd is glad that he finally figured out how to connect with monsters, and Selpha declares that it's time he put that much effort into his sword training. Luckily for Lloyd, Albert shows up because he needs to talk to the boy. They start arguing about who's going to take Lloyd, and Albert says he wants to introduce him to someone. It's Lloyd's older brother, Diane, one of the 4 princes. Diane heard about Lloyd enchanting Albert's sword, but he shocks Albert when he says he finds it hard to believe. So, he wants to see if Lloyd's just full of it. Albert gives a little backstory about how Diane studied something abroad, which is why he's into enchanting. But Diane's done with the small talk and says he's got everything set up to test Lloyd's enchanting skills. As Lloyd starts the process, Diane seriously doubts he'll pull it off. Enchantments are already a tough skill, but Lloyd trying to apply one to a spellbound sword like Albert's is straight up insane. That's on a whole nother level than what they do abroad. Diane thinks he's got to teach Lloyd a lesson for lying, but he's dumbfounded when Lloyd finishes. Albert understands why Diane is shocked because even a newbie can tell Lloyd's technique is unique. Diane's speechless and wonders what kind of spell engraving Lloyd came up with. It's got reinforced strength, elasticity, self-cleaning, and even self-repair. Diane's skepticism quickly turns into hype because he realizes Lloyd might be able to help him achieve his ultimate dream to create the ultimate spellbound sword. Regular enchanted weapons can't even compare to what he's got in mind. Diane wants them to engrave the spell into the weapon while they forge the steel. That way, they can use more advanced magic than usual. They'll create a super weapon that only an enchanter and a smith working together can make. Diane spills the beans that he was always super into sorcery when he was growing up, but it didn't work out because he sucked at it. But spellbound swords are dope because anyone can swing them and they can do some badass magic type stuff. His goal is to make their country a place where everyone can use magic by swinging spellbound swords. Lloyd isn't too concerned about all that, but he's damn interested in the production process. Lloyd agrees to help, so Diane explains he wants a sword that shoots fire when swung. To make it happen, Lloyd suggests using the enchantment called Pyrolance. The problem is, the casting formula for that requires 14 parts, but a spellbound sword can only hold a max of 5. Lloyd's solution is to compress that formula into 2 parts. He compresses it and gets ready to apply it to the steel Diane's foregoing. But both of them are shocked because just the application shatters the steel. Lloyd tries to brainstorm some solutions, but the steel keeps breaking. Lloyd feels crappy because he wasted so much mana essence, but he can't figure out what's going wrong. That's when Grimm notices something about the mana essence and brings it to Lloyd's attention. Diane encourages Lloyd to keep trying since he got a bunch of mana essence for cheap anyway. Lloyd purifies the mana essence and finds out it barely has any hematite in it. Enchanting spellbound swords require a higher concentration of hematite, but this stuff, made from monster cores, is pretty rare. Diane hasn't got any, so Lloyd figures he's got to sneak out and hunt monsters in a dungeon again. Just like that, Selpha comes up with the idea herself for them to hit up a dungeon. Lloyd mentions that a prince like him isn't allowed, but Selpha explains that the king changed his mind after the monster hunt incident. He thinks Lloyd should broaden his horizons by seeing the bigger world. To kick off this journey, they head to the Adventurers Guild so Lloyd can register as an adventurer. The receptionist, Katarina, has Lloyd fill out some paperwork before touching a crystal ball that'll measure his strength and assign his adventure rank. Lloyd's familiar with crystal balls for measuring abilities because he used one when he ruled at the Magic Academy in his past life. But now, things are different. Lloyd's sure that if he uses his full power, the crystal ball will explode and draw too much attention. So, he focuses hard on suppressing his mana, even more than usual. He keeps shrinking it down to the size of a flea. When he finally touches the crystal ball, he gets laughed at because he gets an overall rating of E. But Katarina isn't laughing. She's shocked to see that Lloyd's magic rating is an A. That's on par with an experienced sorcerer, which disappoints Lloyd because he thought he compressed his mana to 1%. That's when Katarina declares that Lloyd is the most promising new adventurer since the one known as the Silver Blader. The other adventurers are pissed off when they hear her comparing the two. The legendary Silver Blader wrecked countless dungeons like a damn demon, but vanished all of a sudden. They think it's disrespectful to mention a legend like her in the same breath as nobody. Selpha explains that they want a dungeon quest, but those require at least one B-ranked adventurer to be part of it. Selpha decides to re-register, but one of the dudes thinks she should just roll with him. After Selpha teaches him a lesson, Katarina tells him he messed with the wrong chick because Selpha is the legendary Silver Blader. She explains that re-registering means getting demoted 2 levels to C rank, so that isn't going to work. Just then, Tawa shows up, offering to help out. Selpha doesn't even acknowledge her and says they're heading home. But Tawa insists on helping and says she went from dungeon to dungeon looking for Loberto. Hitting up all those dungeons made her strong enough to rank up. Now Tao offers her help in exchange for getting a date with Albert. Katarina suggests a dungeon quest while Selpha returns Lloyd's cloak. Lloyd's blown away by Selpha's legendary past, and she explains it all happened when she was a little kid. What she remembers most is her failed attempt to take down some deadly foes called the Assassin's Guild. The trio then enters a dungeon and finds a chest. Meanwhile, back at the forge, Albert goes to see Diane. Diane says it'll take a couple more days for Lloyd to bring the materials they need. But Albert's getting worried about the time it's taken. That makes Diane realize a war is coming, so he tells Albert to just hold on a bit longer. Once Lloyd's back, they can start mass-producing spellbound swords for battle. Albert explains they shouldn't worry about fighting because he brought them together so they could be like brothers again. Albert hopes that one day their weapons will protect the kingdom, so he encourages them to keep pushing. Just then, Diane says they should come quickly because Lloyd's back with a monster core. As they make the sword, Diane realizes that Lloyd is one hell of a kid. Albert already knows it, believing there isn't anything the kid can't do. And it's proven even more when Diane tests out the spellbound sword they made, and it causes some massive destruction. Lloyd realizes he might have gone a bit too far with the sword, so he'll have to tone it down next time. The sword made by the brothers is named Dilord. That night, Lloyd finally gets some much-needed rest. He realizes Albert's been busy, so he wonders if something big is coming. Just then, Lloyd senses something in the garden. It's a really strange feeling like there's a damn hole in space. Shiru is sharp, but he hasn't noticed it either. Lloyd wonders what the hell it could be, and we see a mysterious person outside. Out of nowhere, this chick outside flips her lid when Lloyd straight up appears in front of her. Lloyd's all creepy calm, and she tries to bounce, only to find herself stuck. Lloyd explains that he only wants to have a chat, even though she is a trespasser. The girl pulls some weird power move and apologizes because she never wanted to use it against a kid. Lloyd's shocked when his magic can't purify her poison. Her attack wrecks him, so the girl says sorry again and spills that nothing can cleanse her poison. Lloyd thinks that regular purification should handle any poison, so she must be using some unknown toxin. The craziest part is she's changing the nature of her poison with this rare mana stuff. Turns out, she's got a special kind of mana because she's one of those blighted folks with super scary powers. The girl confirms she's Ren, the poison moth blighted. Then Lloyd freaks when Ren breaks his barrier, and he realizes she weakened it with her poison. Ren assures him that he will be okay since he didn't take in that much of her poison. but he will be in pain for the next couple of days. Ren dips out, saying bye, and Lloyd's amazed at how well she hid herself. Grim arrives to point out that this is no time to be impressed. But Lloyd explains that he is fine as he is constantly healing himself. Grim wonders why he didn't stop the girl, so Lloyd explains that he rather let her guide him to their hideout. Grim has no clue who they are, so Lloyd reveals that Selpha told him about the Assassin's Guild, and he's pretty sure that Ren is one of them. They're a crew of 6 assassins with bounties on their heads. But what gets Lloyd hyped is that each of them has their special powers. Lloyd tracks Ren's location, and Grim can't believe he can detect that undetectable girl. Lloyd's like, her presence is like a rip in space, so it's easy to follow. Lloyd goes after Ren, and Selpha shows up late to the party elsewhere. Ren gets chewed out for not taking out the person who spotted her. But Ren spills that she did get some info. Turns out they're producing spellbound swords, so it looks like they're gearing up for war. But one of the assassins is not feeling it. He tells Ren to stop acting like their leader Jade because he's long gone. Ren argues that Jade's coming back, but they're interrupted because someone's watching them. Lloyd shows himself, and Ren shocked because she thought he was still poisoned. The assassins heard rumors that Lloyd acts all ordinary, but he's secretly super powerful. But none of those matters because Lloyd found them, and they are not letting him leave. This crazy kid hears that and straight up drops his barrier, and Grim's wondering how much crazier he can get. Lloyd explains that he's facing opponents with unique abilities, and it would be a shame if he didn't get to sample them. Lloyd uses his traceability to copy Tao's fighting style and tells the assassins to come at him. He takes down the first challenger, and the dude's impressed that he knows martial arts. Lloyd can tell this guy's mad flexible, and the assassin reveals he can contort his whole body to fit through tiny spaces. The dude is like a freaking rat, so he's called Babylon, the giant rat blighted. Lloyd's mind is blown because this guy's body is straight up unique, but he doesn't have time to admire it because someone sneaks up on him. That guy says sink, and Lloyd's shocked when he feels hella heavy. His name's Crow, the dark raptor blighted, and the mana in his words makes him the cursed bladed. Next up, the big dude swings, but Crow's the one in shock because Lloyd uses raw strength to break his curse. Lloyd gets caught in a trap, and the big dude introduces himself as Galilea, the spider blighted. He can transform the mana around him into sticky stuff like a spiderweb. Lloyd manages to bust out and admires how their abilities match up to the rumors. Then this girl attacks, but Lloyd dodges her hits like it isn't anything. But the crazy chick stabs herself in the leg, and somehow Lloyd feels the pain too. She's Talia, the 100 Pains, and she can share damage with anyone she sees. She's the pain blighted, and Lloyd's like, damn, how the hell does that work? Intros are done, and Talia's all pumped because she thinks she taught Lloyd fear, but she's shaken when Lloyd reveals he isn't scared. But here's the real shocker. Lloyd heals both their stab wounds in a flash, even though they were deep. This kid on another level, wondering what would happen if he hurts Talia. When he heals himself, she gets healed too. So he's thinking if he messes her up, he'll feel it too. Lloyd uses magic to make blades out of some ratty cloth and copies Selpha's fighting style with Chaz. Now this little psycho tells the assassins to get ready because he wants to see how they defend. The assassins start freaking out because he looks just like this swordswoman who traumatized them before, and they are straight up terrified. Lloyd starts his attack, and the assassins are in complete shock seeing how skilled he is with swords and martial arts. And the real kicker? They heard Lloyd was just some magic prodigy. Lloyd damn near slices Babylon in half, but he's tripping when the giant rat relaxes his body at the last moment to spread out the damage. The other assassins try to jump Lloyd together, but they end up messing each other up instead. Lloyd goes all out on Babylon, moving so fast that Babylon can't even say stop to make him halt. Then Lloyd hits him with a twin sparrow attack, and all Babylon can say is ball. Lloyd wonders if he would have ended up bald if Babylon said the word, but he's glad he didn't have to find out. Galilee is out for revenge, but his web gets stuck to everything, and he puts Talia in a tight spot. Lloyd goes after Talia next, but she spills the beans that if he hurts her, he'll feel it too. She thinks he'll back down, but she's shaken when Lloyd's excited to see what that pain's like. Lloyd sends her flying, messing them both up big time, but Lloyd's just stoked it worked. Then the big guy traps him in his webs, but Lloyd slips out of his grip and lands a massive thunder punch. From this point, Lloyd's bleeding from his mouth, so he looks even crazier when he tells Ren to show him her poison again. Galilea tells him not to push her because she can't control her poison mana too well, and if she uses it, they'll all get caught in it. Lloyd realizes none of them seem to have great control over their powers, and Galilea confirms this. He explains if they could control them, they might not have ended up as outlaws. In his rage, Galilea attacks Lloyd, but Lloyd easily shuts him down. Ren tries to save Galil as he's screaming in pain, but Lloyd stops her too. She's all about getting revenge for what Lloyd did to Galilea. But Galilea reveals he's doing just fine. Actually, better than fine because his mana seems to be in check. For some reason, everyone's shocked when Lloyd spills that he engraved the spell right on Galilea's back, so he can control his power. Lloyd admits he's never engraved a spell on someone's body before, but he's glad it worked. Galilea breaks down as the curse finally ends, but Lloyd points out it's more than that because now he can control his mana like a boss. The others watch in awe, so Lloyd tells them it's their turn. He engraves them too, and they're relieved to finally have control over their mana. Crow's nests, crying tears of joy because it's been way too long since he could talk normally. Everyone's celebrating, but Ren is acting like she doesn't care. She claims she's crying for a different reason. But she can't hide her happiness about being able to wear whatever she wants without her poison wrecking her clothes. Lloyd's glad things are looking up, but Ren isn't feeling it when Lloyd's allowed to join their crew. The others remind her they owe everything to him and insist she get ready for the welcome party. Ren tries to call out that he mass-produced weapons of war and snuck into an assassin's hideout. She thinks Lloyd's too damn wild to roll with them. But Grimm sets the record straight. Lloyd was just messing around when he pulled off those stunts. Now that they have control over their powers, Lloyd's all about seeing what they can do. But Galilea wants some answers before they let him in. Lloyd's chill about it, but they insist on spilling their backstory. Lloyd isn't really into the history of the Assassin's Guild, but that changes when Galilea starts talking about their leader. This cat, Jade, goes by the name Phantom Blighted and can teleport. He's the Shadow Wolf. Back in the day, Jade got teleported against his will, and it messed him up badly. Cursed with teleportation, he decided to start the Assassin's Guild. The plan was to take shady jobs at the Adventurers Guild and leave their coin emblem at the scene, showing they were fighting for world peace. They wanted to come out of the shadows and live in the light someday. Galilea keeps going with the story, but Lloyd's more interested in the teleportation bit. Galilea explains that just when things started looking up, they heard the Lord of Lords was getting ready for war, and something happened to Jade. Suddenly, an envelope appears out of nowhere, and they're all shocked. Later on, Selpha storms into the assassin's hideout looking for Lloyd, but he isn't there. She can still smell his scent and finds a note he left behind. Turns out, Lloyd went to meet the Lord of Lords with the Assassin's Guild. Albert freaks out as he reads the note, thinking Lords and the assassins team up and snatch Lloyd. Diane calms him down, and they agree starting a war isn't the answer. War is the last resort, so Albert swears to find a peaceful solution no matter what. But then Selpha drops a bombshell she found Lloyd's clothes in the hideout. They fear the worst, and Albert forgets all about peace, agreeing that war's the only option. But little do they know, Lloyd's not a hostage at all, he's leading the charge somewhere else. After the letter appeared, Galilea immediately recognized the symbol on it to be the one Jade made for them. So Galilea anxiously opens the letter, and sure enough, it is indeed from Jade. In the letter, Jade apologizes for taking so long to contact them. But he had been a little busy as hell. He says he straight up overthrew the Lord of Lordost, who was planning some whack-ass war, and now he's the new ruler of the kingdom. He wants all of them to come and party with him to celebrate. Everybody's stoked about this bomb-ass news, but Lloyd looks at the letter and he's got a different reason to be happy. Galilea comes up to him and gets on his level, thanking Lloyd again for helping them control their curses. But they got to bounce to Lordost now, so Galilea promises they'll pay him back for being such a G someday. Now Ren's got something else in mind. She wants Lloyd to roll with them to Lordost's kingdom so he can put a spell on Jade to keep his blight in check. Lloyd doesn't have a problem with accompanying them, but he asks if Ren knows where this letter came from in the first place. It just appeared out of nowhere, which means it was accurately teleported here from some other place. Teleportation magic is still a huge mystery in this world. Isn't no one just randomly figuring out how to use it? So there's only one legitimate explanation. Jade must have control over his powers after all. It wouldn't make sense for him to straight up lie about that. But here's the deal, they can't be sure if what was said in the letter is true. It might be a trap if they roll to Lordost now. But Ren's still holding on to the belief that Jade would never backstab them. She's all like maybe he learned to control his powers on his own. If that's the case, Lloyd doesn't have to tag along for the reunion. He's going to roll anyway because he's hyped as hell about teleportation magic. Ren wants to trust Jade, but she can't help but worry about what might go down if shit messed up over there. So Lloyd tells her to chill the fuck out because if things go south, he's got their backs. He can handle any trouble that pops up. Galilei is once again singing Lloyd's praises for being so damn cool to them. And after that last statement, Ren's officially head over heels for him. Now, back to the present, Lloyd's got to make a quick stop with his flight spell because none of them can handle that high-speed shit. He's bitching about wasting time because they only flew for 10 damn minutes. But let me tell you, they'd straight up die if they had to endure another minute of supersonic speed, and Babylon's all pissed off about it, stuck in a bad mood. Lloyd concedes and says they can just take a break here and walk the rest of the way since they are pretty close already. And since they're taking a break, Ren offers to grab some grub for them while Lloyd helps Babylon sort out his messed up back. Babylon mentions how Ren's trying to impress Lloyd because she grew up in the damn woods. Shit, she accidentally killed her parents with her poison when she was a kid, so she had to survive on her own out in the wild. And the first person to find her was Jade. He brought her back to the hideout and introduced her to everyone. But they were all kind of scared of her poison powers, so Galilei wasn't sure it was a good idea to keep her around. Plus, she was growling at them like she had rabies or some shit. Still, Jade was dead set on having Ren stay with them. But when he hugged her, she released a whole bunch of poison, and he straight up collapsed. Even after that near-death experience, Jade still wanted Ren to be part of their family. He asked everyone to help take care of her, and since he insisted so damn much, Galilei offered to be her teacher, while Crow and Talia whipped up some clothes. That's when Ren got to see what it was like to have a family. Eventually, Jade came up with a spell to put on her clothes, neutralizing her poison mana. Finally, she could live a somewhat normal life around other people. Jade acted like a big brother to her. And damn, when Lloyd hears all this, he's hella curious to meet Jade. That's a big deal because he hasn't shown interest in anyone before. Finally, Ren comes back from her hunting trip and brings whatever the hell this is. She puts in effort, but nobody wants to touch her nasty ass food, so Babylon asks Crow to use his curse speech to make the food taste good. He's about to do it, but then Ren punches him in the gut with her poison because she doesn't want him messing with her food. Talia tries to reason with her and reminds her that Lloyd's a prince, so this shit she made probably isn't his style. But damn, she's dead wrong because Lloyd's scarfing it down without a second thought. It isn't the worst thing he's ever eaten, considering his messed up past life and all the nasty shit he had to stomach. The others get the courage to try it after seeing Lloyd dig in, and the food might look nasty, but it isn't half bad once you get used to it. Ren did a damn good job considering she never had a chance to practice cooking with her poison powers. So everyone ends up digging Ren's food, and she hopes she can share it with Jade someday. Now we flash back to a time when Jade comes back to the crew with some news. The guild's thinking about reconsidering the bounties on their heads, so the whole squad starts celebrating. They might just be able to rejoin society now that they aren't outlaws anymore. Jade tells them not to get their hopes up because the guild's still just thinking about it. But it's a step towards a future where they're accepted for who they are. And that's enough reason to party. Jade's grateful to have such dope-ass friends, but he's feeling guilty about something, so he gathers everyone's attention to confess. Turns out, he isn't just some random dude. He's the third prince of Lordost. He's nobility, and he admits he approached them to use them for his own goals. Lordost is ruled by his evil-ass family who's always thirsty for war. Jade was desperate to find a way to stop them from kicking off a pointless war, so he formed this crew. He expects them to be pissed at him for manipulating them, but they don't give a damn about his initial motives. They pretty much figured he had some royal blood with the way he carried himself, but Ren had no clue, so she's losing it trying to process all this info. While Ren's still catching up, the rest of the crew tells Jade that they all have their own messed up stories that brought them here. They aren't pleasant backstories they usually talk about, but at the end of the day, regardless of his motives, he's family to them. He could have kept his mouth shut and they wouldn't have questioned him. But now that he spilled the beans, they're down to help him take out the Lordost family if he wants. But nah, he isn't into that because it'd be messed up if the guild found out they assassinated folks based on personal grudges. The whole bounty reconsideration would be cancelled, and they might even raise the bounty if they get involved. So he wants to handle the Lordost family on his own. Jade always saw the Assassin's Guild as his real family, and he'd love nothing more than to stay with them forever, but he can't just stand by when Lordost's about to start a war. Since he'll be bouncing soon, he wants them all to make a promise with him to keep the Assassin's Guild going, even if he doesn't make it back alive from Lordost. And if he doesn't make it back, that means he's successfully taken over Lordost and become the new ruler. So he vows to make that place a spot where the messed up can live free. After hearing the story, even Grimm is convinced that Jade must be one hell of an awesome person. Once they finish grubbing, they continue their short-ass walk to Lordost. But Lloyd was straight up knocked out along the way, so Galilei got to carry him. As they keep walking, Ren steps up in front of the crew and shares her concerns. She doesn't think Jade would betray them, but there's a chance the Lordost family got him twisted and made him do some shady shit. So she thinks they should let Lloyd rest here while they go scope out the area and make sure it's safe. Galilei agrees and slaps Lloyd awake before turning to Grimm and asking him to watch over Lloyd while they're gone. But Grimm doesn't think it's such a bright idea because Lloyd's practically invincible, even when he's knocked out. But if they go into Lordost alone and shit hits the fan, Lloyd's going to be pissed at him for letting them get in trouble. So he's rolling with them. They arrive at the castle, and there's a damn party going on, just like Jade mentioned in his letter. Grimm doesn't sense any hostility from the folks here, so he figures it's safe to go get Lloyd and bring him back. Now that Galilei thinks about it, he remembers Jade being interested in Lloyd for some reason. But before he can spill the beans, they get spotted by a castle staff member. The dude recognizes them as the Assassin's Guild, but instead of freaking out, he takes them down to the banquet and announces the arrival of the guests of honor. Seems like there was nothing to worry about after all. Grimm's about to fly back to get Lloyd, but Ren's getting all jittery because she's about to meet Jade again, so she asks Grimm to stick around with her a bit longer. Finally, Jade shows up in the banquet hall, and they're all stoked to see him, but damn, he's got a whole new look that throws them off. Jade decides to change back into his regular clothes because he's with friends, so he snaps his fingers and teleports them into his body. The others are straight up shocked that he's fully mastered his powers. When they ask how the hell he did it, he just says he practiced like crazy until he got it down. Ren steps up to finally talk to him again, but she's so overcome with emotions that she can't find the words to express herself. Unfortunately, Jade's done playing nice, and he switches up the whole damn mood in the room as all the guests turn evil. Jade somehow pulls off some cursed speech trickery and slams them all to the damn ground. He straight up announces to the crowd that they can take their pick from the blighted peeps he lured in. Dude don't even give a damn about remembering their names. But before shit hits the fan, Grimm unleashes his powers and attacks Jade, buying enough time for the others to dip. Grimm seems to know what the deal is with Jade, but before he can spill the tea, Jade teleports behind him and kicks Grimm across the whole map. Grimm luckily crash lands right next to Lloyd, and once he wakes up, he starts spilling the beans about some messed up stuff that went down with the Assassin's Guild members. Back at the castle, Ren confronts Jade, still holding on to a tiny bit of hope that there's some legitimate explanation for this madness. But her hopes get crushed when Jade reveals that everyone there is possessed by demons he brought from the netherworld. And get this, he isn't even really Jade. Nah, he's a damn demon named Gisarm, wreaking havoc in Jade's body just so he can have his teleportation powers. He straight up says the real Jade is dead because he took over his body. This sick bastard took pleasure in messing with Jade's mind for months, and the only thing keeping Jade going was his love for his crew. Demons dig blighted peeps' bodies as hosts, so Jade knew Gisarm was coming after his friends if he took over his body. So instead of letting that happen, Jade chose to end his own life with his own hands. If he succeeded, both he and Gisarm would be 6 feet under. But nah, Gisarm couldn't even let the man die in peace. When Jade was about to kick the bucket, Gisarm just healed all the damage in an instant. The other demons are getting restless about taking over a blighted person's body, so Gisarm grabs Ren and sarcastically warns the demons to watch out because she's got some deadly ass poison that killed her parents at birth. Even though they're all seething with anger, they can't do jack shit to stop Gisarm. Homeboy inspects Ren's body, planning to take her over, but he pauses when he spots the spell Lloyd had put on her. He's pissed as hell that someone would dare to mark his property, so he uses some cursed speech to force Ren to spill who did this. Ren, fueled by sheer willpower and loyalty to Lloyd, resists the urge to rat him out at first, but Gisarm keeps screaming in her face, demanding to know who gave her that mark. Out of nowhere, barriers pop up around all the Assassin's Guild members, and a freaking massive death laser obliterates everything around. But the one who cast the laser is Lloyd, and he looks like he's pissed. The demons are straight up terrified after witnessing the insane power Lloyd just dropped. But before Lloyd goes into full-on rampage, he heads over to check on the Assassin's Guild crew. He patches up Ren's injury and tells them Grim already filled him in on what went down, so he wants them to bounce ASAP. Since the demons are targeting the guild, it makes zero sense for them to stick around and get themselves killed. That's why Lloyd orders them to scram so he can handle the rest on his own. Ren protests, but Galilei shuts her down and grabs her, so they can make a run for it. He knows Ren feels she should stick around to help, but they'd just be in the way, plus they're no match for Gizarm. It's best if Lloyd takes care of things. At the same time, the demons are still lost in it, convinced Gizarm was wiped out by Lloyd's blast. But then Gizarm teleports back up to the surface and Furious orders the other demons to chase the Assassin's Guild immediately. They're crazy good at hiding, so if they get away, Gizarm might never track them down again. Not letting them escape, Lloyd fires off several more death lasers, blasting every demon in the castle grounds except for Gizarm, who manages to teleport out of harm's way. A couple of demons try to ambush Lloyd while he's distracted, and Gizarm seizes the chance to unleash his cursed speech, telling Lloyd to kick it. Lloyd sees it coming and has already set up a barrier to block the attack, but to his shock the spell slides right through his shield. With his brain on Quicksilver timing, Lloyd still has plenty of time to react. While dodging might seem smart, he's also curious to see what happens if he lets it hit him. But before he does something reckless, Grim forces him to dodge the cursed word, and it collides with one of the demons, killing it on the spot. Lloyd then uses his analysis magic to review the aftermath, and it turns out the death spell wiped out even the demon inhabiting the body, its death ultimately caused by cardiac arrest. Grim's telling Lloyd to bail on fighting Gizarm cause it's way too damn dangerous. Gizarm's magic doesn't even need a spell, it just taps his mana and creates an effect on its own. Kind of like Crow's cursed speech, but way more refined. When using a normal spell, a barrier can block its effects. But when an attack comes straight from raw mana, the barrier acts more like a net. Solid blows are blocked, but mana just slips right through. If they were dealing with someone like Pazuzu, Lloyd could easily crush any attack he threw. But Gizarm's mana could actually pierce Lloyd's heart if he isn't careful. Gizarm looks down at the demons that survived Lloyd's death ray and shows nothing but contempt for them. Grim explains to Lloyd that demons are ranked in 10 classes, so the ones down there are 10th class, basically trash. For reference, Pazuzu was an E-class demon, and Grim himself is a 3rd class demon. Lloyd figures that would make Gizarm a 1st class demon, but it's actually far worse. Gizarm is demon royalty, a demon lord. His power is so monstrous that even 100 first-class demons wouldn't stand a chance against him. Lloyd might be amazing, but Grim believes even he is outmatched this time and orders everyone to scram. Yet Lloyd keeps flying closer to Gizarm instead. Gizarm then asks who Lloyd is, and he introduces himself as the 7th Prince. Gizarm vaguely recalls something from Jade's memories about wanting to meet Lloyd, though he doesn't bother remembering the details. Lloyd admits he'd have loved to meet Jade, but now he's never gonna get the chance because of Gizarm. Gizarm fires back, upset that Lloyd just showed up and started blasting his minions and wrecking his base. They both have scores to settle, and they look just as crazy and amped to get things started. Meanwhile, Grim once again suggests that Lloyd should run while he still has a chance to escape. Lloyd admits that taking out Gizarm isn't as easy as smashing the demon he decimated on the ground. Grim is shocked that Lloyd would call that routine easy. Even though he always said 10th class demons are trash, they're still pretty tough and naturally resistant to sorcery. Gizarm is chomping at the bit to get the fight started, so he uses his mana to form a tiny spike and launches it straight at Lloyd, nearly busting through his barrier. Even if it didn't go all the way, it's the first time Grim has seen anything actually damage Lloyd's shield, which sends Grim into a panic. Gizarm is impressed with the durability of Lloyd's barrier, but he wants to see how it holds up when he isn't holding back. He then fires off several mana sword projectiles at Lloyd. Lloyd starts a series of evasive maneuvers to minimize the damage, but he still loses a lot of his shield layers in the process. Lloyd gets so wrapped up dodging the swords that he forgets Gizarm can teleport. He's taken aback when Gizarm suddenly appears right in front of him and shatters the barrier with a single kick. The blow sends Lloyd flying straight into a sword, so he thinks fast and casts an earth puppet spell to shield himself from getting impaled. Galilei and the others watch in awe at the scale of the battle between Lloyd and Gizarm, and even the demons are stunned until both sides realize they're all on the same bridge, and the demons start chasing the assassins. Galilei turns to Babylon, who's been struggling to clear the gate, and orders him to speed up so they can pass. At the same moment, Lloyd is still deep in combat with Gizarm, and Grim is already in tears. But Lloyd doesn't care about feelings, he simply calls on Grim for backup. Gizarm is flabbergasted that Lloyd managed to dodge his attack completely unharmed, and the only time he managed to put pressure on Lloyd was when he teleported. Lloyd fires back that the teleportation ability isn't even his to use. Gizarm sees it differently. Since he stole Jade's body and Jade never could control that power in the first place, he believes he deserves it. Humans can't control abilities like that without a spell, but for a demon born as a mana master, it comes naturally. It's only natural he'd claim that gift for himself, and now he's fixin' to show Lloyd what proper teleportation looks like in battle. Gizarm summons more mana swords and starts mocking Lloyd, daring him to attack, dodge, or even run. But when Lloyd takes a stab in the back, Gizarm laughs, declaring he never had a choice. With teleportation, there's no need to launch projectiles in the usual way. They can be sent directly into Lloyd's body with no way to block them. Now convinced of his own victory, Gizarm names his new power Shadow Wolf in honor of the moment. On the other side, the lowlife demons are still after the assassins, ordering them to surrender their bodies. But the crew has just learned to harness their own powers for the first time, so there's no way they're about to give it up. Galilei uses his web ability to cover the ground and hold the demons in place while the team escapes the webs harden after a few seconds. To ensure none slip away before they set, Crow employs his cursed speech to make Humpty Dumpty and the rest collapse. Galilei praises Crow for nailing his cursed speech without hitting their own folks. While the demons remain down, Babylon finally manages to open the gates so they can make a break for it. Just then, however, the demons start fighting back, ripping bricks out of the ground to stand up. They won't get far unless someone stays behind to hold them off. Before Galilei can step up, Talia takes charge. She scans the demons, and with a surge of power, she slices her ankle to render them unable to walk. She orders everyone to keep out of sight since she can't control her ability enough to avoid hurting her allies. She wants them to leave her behind and break for the woods to safety. Ren isn't willing to split up. Knowing she can't escape on her own with her leg hurt, the demons writhe in pain from Talia's ability. But they regenerate their wounds, and that, in turn, heals Talia. Not wasting a beat, she immediately stabs her foot again, sending the demons into fresh agony. Once more, she urges the crew to hurry and get out while they still can, promising that she won't let her body be stolen away that easily. But Ren can't just accept being left behind, so she tries to grab Talia so they can flee together. Instead, Galilei pushes her back and locks her outside the gate, choosing to stay behind with Talia. The moment the gate stays closed, the demons still could tear right through it, so at this rate none of them will escape unless they get stopped now. The demons knows exactly what Talia is aiming to do, so he won't let her go it alone and risk killing herself. Soon enough, the demons start freaking out when they realize Talia is serious enough to sacrifice herself to wipe them out. They scramble to block her path, but Galilei steps in to hold them off. Ren shouts at them to chill, reminding everyone that they were this close to living together as a family. Even though Jade might never come back, now that they've mastered their powers and erased their bounties, there's really no reason to throw in the towel. Talia can't even imagine the pain Jade must have suffered trying to end his life for their sake. Yet she understands the drive to do whatever it takes to protect her crew. Without hesitation, she slashes her own neck to weaken the demons. At the same moment, Gizarm looks down in disgust at the sorry lot below, wishing Lloyd had put on a better show so that Talia's sacrifice might have meant something. Then he hears a crumbling sound from where Lloyd's body should be. Gizarm spins around and sees that Lloyd has turned to dust. Before he can react, the real Lloyd attacks from behind, but Gizarm teleports away just in time to avoid getting cut. He realizes Lloyd set a decoy to lower his guard and is now wielding an enchanted sword, so it looks like their fight is about to get a whole lot more interesting. Lloyd then seems worried about something else, not related to Gizarm, and orders that they move to a different spot to finish the fight because there are people around he really doesn't want to see. Right before Talia can finish her own move, hundreds of fireballs suddenly rain in from behind the gate, so Galilei grabs her to keep her from getting caught in the blaze. The demons end up getting scorched by the unexpected attack, though neither Talia nor Galilei can figure out where it came from. Then the gate is sliced open and Lloyd's family storms in. Albert leads them, and even though the chaos is off the charts, it doesn't change their mission. They're here solely to rescue Lloyd. Thanks for watching. Please, if you like my recaps, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want more parts, let me know in the comments.